The United States of America is one of the greatest countries on earth. The presidents are well known for treating their citizens the absolute best. Well, that is if you are a rich, straight white man. If you're anything than that, then you're out of luck. Now, I can go over several ethnic groups that were mistreated by some of our past presidents. I could also say that every president has mistreated Indigenous people in some way. And some presidents I will not go over in this video. But today I will go over 6 presidents and their treatments of the Indigenous people of America. Don't worry, this video won't be too long, as a lot of these people are grouped together. Our first president is Andrew Jackson. He is well known for his mistreatment of the Indigenous people, as he signed the Indian Removal Act. This legal act would soon lead to what was known as the Trail of Tears. But that's not all they tell you. You see, this will lead to our next president, Martin Van Buren. Already, thousands of Native Americans are being removed from their homes, but Martin Van Buren made it worse by enforcing it after taking office. Van Buren did this by sending troops to the Cherokee Nation, who round up every member of the nation and place them in internment camps. During the fall and winter of 1838, Van Buren forced them to travel to new lands. While on that trip, about 4,000 Cherokees died, along with other nations losing half of their population. Our next president may be a shocker to many of you, and that president is Abraham Lincoln. Yes, the same president who freed the slaves was also the same person who would take away ancestral land from Native Americans. Lincoln's treatment of Indigenous people wasn't much different from the predecessors. The common perception during this time was that white men had to civilize the Indigenous people, claiming that Native Americans spoke broken English when in fact most Indigenous people spoke very fluent English. Lincoln also said, "I can see no way in which your face is to become as numerous and prosperous as the white race, except by living as they do by the cultivation of the earth." Despite the Civil War going on, Lincoln also said that white men are, not as a race, so disposed to fight and kill one another as our red brethren. He also signed the Homestead Act, which gave away millions of indigenous land to railroad companies. Like Jackson and Van Buren, Lincoln would force nations to move away from their land into internment camps. And 1 week before the Emancipation Proclamation, on January 1st, 1863, Lincoln would go on to sign the hanging of 38 Dakota Sioux men. As we move 20 years later, this would cause a relative of Lincoln and grandson to William Henry Harrison to become an often forgotten president. But after showing you this, you certainly would not want to forget Benjamin Harrison, who on the month of December 15th, 1890, would send agents to arrest Sitting Bull, one of the leaders of the Dakota Nation. Sitting Bull resisted when they shot and killed him. 14 days later, on December 29th, 1890, soldiers sought unarmed men, women, and children at Wounded Knee Creek. Approximately 146 Indigenous people and 29 others were killed. This event would become well known as the Wounded Knee Massacre. Now that may be horrible enough, but it gets worse. Harrison was the president who would ask for full and complete annexation of Hawaii to the Senate after Stanford Ballard Dole and other sugar planters would take over and overthrow Queen Liliuokalani. I created an art piece about Benjamin Harrison and his crimes toward the Indigenous people, which I wrote on top of the piece, "The Crimes Time Forgot." But to make sure of what I thought people knew about some of our presidents, I did a survey and asked my fellow classmates, along with a lot of other people. With my survey, I discovered that only 25 out of the 151 people I asked said that they knew about the Wounded Knee Massacre, and 43 out of the 137 people said that they knew about how Hawaii became a state. Now, all of the presidents that I have mentioned so far were before the 1900s. You may say, oh, things have gotten better, right? It really hasn't. Our last 2 presidents, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, have all mistreated the indigenous people, involving the oil pipelines. Donald Trump revived the Dakota Access and Keystone XL pipelines, and had reduced environmental protections. He also withdrew a legal opinion that can help nations regain their ancestral lands. Now, Joe Biden did cancel the Keystone XL pipelines, although he remained quiet and did nothing with the Enbridge Line 3 pipeline. Now, with me informing you about all of this, you might be asking yourself, what can I do about this? Well, to be honest, I don't know what we can do to help. I will say this though. Help them by amplifying their voices, and to make sure that more people are aware of the way our country is mistreating the indigenous people. So that way, when the next election comes by, they'll have some tough questions to answer that can help the indigenous people. When they're being mistreated again, speak up about it, and make people aware about the previous presidents who mistreated the indigenous people, so that we are informed and educated on the unjust moments in our American history. Now, you'll be surprised to know that we have had several presidents in the past who advocated for the indigenous people. To end this on a happy note, I'm going to give them a brief shout out. There was John Quincy Adams, who stopped the governor of Georgia from going after the Creek Nation, and had a less one-sided treaty that helped Native Americans. Calvin Coolidge signed the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, which granted citizenship to every Native American. Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the 1934 Indian Reorganization Act, which restored some economic and cultural autonomy back to Native Americans. And lastly, Richard Nixon, who returned Blue Lake to Taos Pueblo and signed the Indian Self-Determination Act and Self-Organization Act, which returned power to the nations. As you can see, it doesn't matter who you are or what job you have, you can still make the choice to help out the Native American community. And remember, they were here before a good chunk of us. I'm Moises Martinez, and this is the end of my PSA.